Welcome to episode 2 of Erwin Skills 101, Unlocking the Secrets of Your Data Structures. I'm your host, Jessica Pasqualo, and I'm excited to share some fun and interesting insights about data with you. Today we have the fantastic Andy McGovern joining us as our expert presenter. Get ready to dive into the powerful features of Erwin Data Modeler 14.1. So grab your notebooks and get ready to unlock the secrets of your data with us. Let's jump in. Andy, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Jess. Hello, world. Andy McGovern here for episode 2 of our Erwin DM Skills 101. Last session, we spent some time talking about the what and the why we do what we do with Erwin Data Modeler. And today we're going to be spending time on discovering your data. And this is really the basis for working with the Erwin Data Modeler. You cannot manage what you cannot see. And in order to be able to see the information, we're going to use the reverse engineering process and Erwin Data Modeler to capture the structures of your existing databases or data structures, as you may call them, build some really nice models, and then share that with the rest of the organization. So today, we're going to be talking a little bit more and going deeper into Erwin Data Modeler 14.1. We saw the major features last week, but today we're going to be talking about how to configure Erwin DM reverse engineering, how you can share this information amongst modelers, the engineering options, inferring keys, laying out models, best practices for model organization, generating a PDF report, and then steps to creating comprehensive documentation. This is a lot of information and it's a lot to cover in a short amount of time, but I will do the best I can to make sure that as we're through with this session today, you're going to be comfortable and confident in being able to use the Erwin Data Modeler solution. So just a quick review here. Again, if you saw the last episode, when I put up a slide like this, as a pre-sales professional, I get a little nervous because my customers expect that it can do everything, and I can say with full confidence that Erwin Data Modeler can do all of this, and then some. Here's a little bit more of a view of the third-party integration that we support with the DBMS support. This isn't comprehensive. Here is the current status of what we support natively, over 33 data structures. Today we're going to be focusing on Microsoft SQL, but the functionality is the same relatively for the rest of these systems. We can get you more detailed documentation on how to reverse engineer these because they all have their own specific nuances. Once again, just to review, what does native support refer to in Erwin DM? It gives us the ability to reverse engineer via JDBC, ODBC, or a script file, to forward engineer, generating a document or DDL, to provide complete compare, where you can compare models and then do an impact analysis to generate the appropriate altered DDL, and then also to convert from one of these 33 data structures to another. This is all included in Erwin Data Modeler Standard Edition. Okay, so this is definitely going to be more how-to. So in order to follow along, I'm going to walk you through how to set up your workspace. Now, when you first start up Erwin Data Modeler, once you get past the introduction screen, you're going to have different types of windows that show up in your main window. These are referred to as panes or widgets. I'll refer to them as widgets sometimes. Now, these can be removed by clicking the X on each one of these buttons. They can be resized, they can be made sticky. You can also turn them on and off if you go to the Actions button in the Data Modeler, and then you can turn on the specific panes that are here. This way, you're going to be looking at relatively the same thing as I am. Okay, so the screen that I'm going to be working from is just the workspace, with the Model Explorer as the left-hand pane. All right, let's do it. Now, as we're going to walk through this, we're going to start in the Actions button, and we're going to click the Reverse Engineer button. From here, this is going to bring up the Reverse Engineering wizard, and we're going to create a new model. We're going to create a logical physical model because that's just what we do. If you want to create a physical only, absolutely. But in this case, we're going to build a logical physical model with two different diagrams after the fact. We're going to be reverse engineering Microsoft SQL Server version 2022. We're only going to be creating what I could call a raw model. It's going to be a logical physical model with two simple diagrams. The other information that you're going to see here is the predefined list. The predefined list can be used in conjunction with the worker edition in order to have pre-configured credentials to reverse engineer these systems. So somebody with the right credentials can set up reverse engineer so a junior modeler can reverse engineer from there. We can also integrate templates. Templates are what we use to provide standards in the models. We're going to cover that in much more detail in our next session. So we select the type of database we're going to reverse engineer. And as you will see, there's the whole list of the 33 data structures that we support. In this case, we're going to be working with SQL Server. As we click next, we'll see the options to reverse engineer from a database or from a script file. This holds true for all of the databases that we work with. For documents and things like that, obviously, we're going to work directly against the script file itself. All right, now we get to the connection component. I am using SA because I am a pre-sales guy. This is my lockdown environment. You can set up your authentication to work with Windows authentication, which is generally how everybody else does it. All you need, the only rights you need in order to be able to reverse engineer are read rights. Again, I'm coming in as SA, but the user only needs to have the ability to read this database. So you're using the name, and again, SA. I'm going to put in my password. I'm using the native connection from the data modeler. I'm connecting to a database on my local host, and the database name is publication model. Now I make the connection, and then from here, I can select the schemas and the tables. So we select DBO schema, and then we select the tables. And then we get into the detailed options. Now, with the detailed options is where you can infer your primary keys or relations within the model itself. This is very powerful for working with old databases. The queries still run, but everything is copacetic. We need to be able to document that. It also is very effective when you're working with vendor application databases. This will infer the primary keys based on the names, and it can also infer the relations based on the indexes or the names. This is very, very powerful in discovering what's out there, documenting it at the very least, and fixing it if you can. The scheduler component, we're going to get into more detail on that in a future session, but within the workgroup edition, we can use a scheduling function to capture, reverse engineer a structure, compare it to the last scan that we did, and then generate a differences report using complete compare. And then finally, a more advanced topic is Erwin projects, which allows you to open to multiple models at one time so that you can manipulate them and generate the DDL together. All right, now we hit the OK button and we start our reverse engineer. And now we've got our basic model. We have a logical physical model with one diagram. And now we're going to take a look at how we can lay this out and add other diagrams, etc. So now we have our model. From here, we're going to lay out the model. So here's our model. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to expand this window or this pane within the data modeler. So all you have to do is click the maximize button, and then that will fill the pane. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to zoom the model to fit this window. And there's a button. It's not green, but it's right in the middle of your screen, to the left of the physical drop down. And then this will zoom the model to fit the window. And now it's zoomed out. Okay, so here we have the actual physical schema diagram within the model. This model still only has one diagram. But before we get into the actual building new diagrams, let's take a closer look at this model. Now, I know when I show these demonstrations, there's a lot of information that's on this screen, and some of it is superfluous as far as I'm concerned, because it can be blurry. I'm going to focus on some of the more important components that are here. So please bear with me. So the first thing that we'll notice in here is as we're going in to look at any of these objects, I have brought up here the table wizard for the order item table. So in here, based on the target database, which is SQL, we have specific functionality that we can work with. As you can see, we have our table options, we can set up our partitions, etc. And this is going to hold true for any of the databases that we're working with. When you're working in a physical model and you instantiate any of the wizards, those wizards are going to be specific to that target database. You can also see that there are multiple different types of wizards that will work, again, for the specific target database. In this case, we're working with Microsoft SQL Server. So our wizards, we have wizards for tables, columns, indexes, XML indexes, spatial indexes, column store indexes, triggers, stored procedures, functions, and scripts, which can be external to this process. You can also see the SQL or the DDL that is going to be generated from this particular table. This is what I refer to as processed SQL, meaning that what is set in the model, is processed by the forward engineering template to generate the DDL for this, and this is what that DDL is going to look like. Keep in mind, whenever you're working on a physical model, at any point you can generate the full schema, because that's where the code comes from. Here's another view of a different editor. This is the stored procedure editor. So we capture our stored procedures. You can create stored procedures. You can edit them however you need. All of this is coming back from that reverse engineer. We haven't done any changes. This is the native pull, as it were. As I just mentioned, within the physical models, as you have your schema set up within here and you go to actions and schema, you can actually see the DDL that's going to be generated. So those are some of the basics of what you can do with a physical model. Obviously, there's more, and we'll follow up with that with more sessions as we go along. Okay, now we've got our model. We have one diagram. We just took a closer look at what is in there. Now we're going to add a new diagram, and you can probably guess what kind of diagram it is. That's right, it's going to be an entity relationship diagram. All right. Now, before we do that, we're going to name this model. So in the upper right-hand corner, if you click on the model name, you'll see the properties. And then we're going to change the model name from model 3 to new model. So now we've renamed our model to new model. And we're going to add a diagram. Up in the upper left-hand corner is the diagram button. We're going to click on that. The original diagram that's there, it just gives it a random name starting with ER diagram.number. We're going to add our logical diagram here. So the first thing is you click on the new button, which is right next to the garbage can. This will give you that new diagram. It defaults to physical. We're going to change that to logical. We're going to give it the name of logical, and we're going to auto-populate. So this is where we're going to take the tables and columns that have been discovered so that we can create entities and attributes in our ER diagram. For consistency, we're going to change the original name there from ER diagram number to physical. Okay, now we have two diagrams. One of them we've already laid out nicely. The other one is just going to come in as a bit of a mishmash, and we're going to straighten that out too. And mishmash is the technical term. Okay, so here is my ER diagram. In my new model, we have everything is laid out just in a blob, and we're going to use the layout buttons in the diagram tab in order to get this where we want it to be. All right, so in the actions button or in the diagram tab, there's the hierarchical layout button. As you can see, there are several different types of layouts. We have hierarchical, orthogonal, tree, circular, and symmetric. Once you lay these models out or these objects out, you can reset the relationship paths. I'm partial to hierarchical. If you do hierarchical, and each one of these is going to be laid out nearly identical to each one of the models. So this way you have consistency on the physical and logical side. So we did the layout, and as if you remember from before, it kind of like pushes it all the way out to cover everything. We want to zoom the model to fit the window. That's where that not green button, but the target button, if you would, to the left of the diagram drop down is set there. And now we're zoomed out. Now the way that this laid out, this is part of the reason what we love about part of the stuff that we love about being a data modeler is the fiddling and twiddling. So in this case, I can grab a group of entities in this case, because I want them laid out nicely. I select them as a group, I drag them, and then I reset out. All right. So we have an ER diagram, we have a schema diagram. We haven't done any translation from the logical or the physical into the logical. We're going to cover that in the next session with documentation. What we have done, though, is we've discovered our schema. So at this point, we have a rudimentary data dictionary that we can use. But again, we're going to cover that in more detail as these skills trainings progress. But even at this point, you have a usable artifact. So you can get these diagrams out to other interested parties. We're going to do that with a PDF report. There's several different ways that we can generate these reports. We can generate them as CSV, which is not graphically friendly. We can generate as a PDF. We can also generate as HTML. So you can drop this into a SharePoint. And then last but not least, with our Workup edition, we have a read-only reporting portal where we're going to take these models and all the associated metadata and publish it out as a golden source through the ERS-360 portal. But to get started, so that you can show everybody what you've done with this really cool tool, generate your PDF report. In the Erwin Data Modeler Standard Edition, we have the Report Designer. It's under the Tools tab. This is included with the standard license. We're going to go over, we're going to click on the Report Designer tab. This will bring up the Report Designer. From here, we're going to hit the File button, and then we're going to drop down to Open Pinned Reports. These are canned reports. From this drop down, starts with more administrative reports. We're going to drop down to model reports. We're going to select diagram picture report. And we right click on this as it is under the report designer there. You do export to PDF. Now this will allow you to select the diagrams that you want to go to PDF. We don't have any subject areas, so we're just going to work with the logical and physical diagrams themselves. Or actually, we're just going to do physical here. So here is that physical diagram coming from the data modeler, and it's in PDF format. So we can take this and we can share it out so that our organization has a better understanding of what this data modeler is bringing. Get better understanding of our data, how it's connected within our resources, so we can start documenting it appropriately based on our own organizational initiatives. So that ends episode 2 of our Erwin Skills 101 series. Our next episode is going to be documentation. We're going to take this basic model and we're going to blow it out with a template. We're going to talk about user-defined properties and making this a viable, usable artifact for both technical and business users at your organization. So thank you. I will see you again and have a great day.